Hey guys, I've got another brand new video for you. This time it's gonna come in two parts. There's gonna be a part 1 and a part 2. This video is going to focus on helping you understand why your mixes don't sound professional. This is the most common email or question or complaint that I get. People write me and say, I don't know why my music doesn't still sound professional. I don't know why, it doesn't hit as hard. I don't know why my reverb and delay don't sound so smooth. I don't understand why, when I play my song next to a commercial song, it still doesn't have that professional polish. So in the next 2 videos, I'm going to give you 10 reasons why your song doesn't yet sound professional. Bear in mind that when you say a song is professional, usually it's very relative. You could play 10 different commercial songs and their mixes all sound very different. And this is very common with Afropop songs, Nigerian songs in particular. If I play 3 different mixes, 3 mixes from same guy, it sounds very different. So you need to bear that in mind. So when you reference and you try to make your song sound professional now, you need to understand what you mean by professional. The most important definition of professional is that when you play it across all different sound systems, on a phone, laptop, in a club, church, stage, in a car, everywhere you play it, the mix sounds good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a song that was done by his name is A+, and this song is called Allow Me. So when I posted the final mix in a Facebook sound engineer group, the feedback was really positive, and people really came out. I mean, these are engineers from different countries, all coming out to say, wow, this mix is really good, it's professional, it's hard hitting, the vibe is good, So I'm going to show you I'm going to play you the final mastered MP3, and then I'm going to come back and show you the unmastered mix. So just take a listen. I'll just play about a minute or so of the song.
Yeah. Da, 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 da. It's cold outside, baby, wait. Let me give you a romantic. Sarewa bao, come closer. Make we push you cold komoto. Me pon you, you pon me. Switch off the light all night long. Play my song, birthday sex. Da 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 da. Panty panty on the wall. Who's the sexiest of them all? Amakao, Jenny, Emma Von. Oh, panty panty on the wall. Who's the thickest of them all? Bolu, Sade, Dolani. Allow me to enter. Let me do you right. Let me be the man for you. Hey. Allow me to enter. Let me hold you tight. Kissing you through the night, baby. Yeah. Let me sing a song for you. Oh, fighting on the Roma, baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Girl, I'm catching fever. Oh, you're not tomorrow. Took it to the sofa, then to the bed. Let me put the speaker banging in your head. I'ma be the geisha, sliding in your bread. You'ma be the needle, and I'ma be the thread. Boomba. Guess who's coming to dinner? Carolina, put the gasolina. She loved this song from the rodeo, so she bounce along with it.
Back to FL Studio. Now I did everything in FL Studio. The beat was done in FL Studio. The recording, the voice recording, you can see the vocals all here. I did take the vocals out to Adobe Audition to to clean them up. Just basically some noise reduction, nothing fancy, taking away some heavy breaths, but everything, the mix was done, the whole of the mix was done right here in FL Studio. So this is what the mix itself sounds like without mastering. I mean, it's not too different from the master, it's just not as loud.
Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's cold outside, baby, wait. Let me give you a romantic. Sarewa bao, come closer, make we push you cold, come out. Panty, panty on the wall. Who's the thickest of them all? Boy.
So let's go straight into it. So first reason why your mixes don't sound professional is that you don't have a good recording chain. Now bear in mind that even though we're dealing with Afro pop, hip hop, that kind of music where the only thing you record into your system is probably your vocals, your lead vocals, background vocals, but also guitar, live guitar, lead, acoustic, bass. But of course, it's vocals. But again, your vocals are the centerpiece of your mix. Your vocals are the main sort of focus in your song. That's what everybody listens to. In Afro pop, it's like Whiskey, Davido. It's that voice that's shouting, that people really listen to. So if you don't get your vocals right, the rest of the mix cannot be professional. And that's why even when you download a well-mixed and mastered beat and then you record your vocals on it, if you still don't have a good recording chain, then you're going to have a problem. So the first thing I want you to know is that have a reasonable recording chain. Hey guys, so the first thing that I think is really important for you to know is the fact that you need to record your sound from the source at very high quality. So when you get that sound from the source at high quality, you do less work when you mix. So I'm going to show you my vocal chain, and typically when I record vocals, the chain I use. I can assure you, if your chain is not high quality, you would not get a very good vocal. And no matter how you mix it, no matter how much parallel compression and other things you do, you still will not get a very good vocal mix. And this is so important. If you don't work on upgrading your chain, you might have problems. So I'll show you my chain. So let me quickly address a question. People are saying, do they need a vocal boot? Now this is my boot. You can see the glass partition. You can see it's padded all through to the top. You don't necessarily need to have a vocal boot to be able to record properly and to have clean vocals. I can assure you, majority of the artists that the big stars, don't record in boots. But for me, I record in boots because that's my thing. Like, I still assume that there's a lot of room resonance in my room when I record. So I think it's just, it's maybe it's psychological. But yeah, you don't really need to have a vocal boot to have a clean recording. If that answers your question. To the person who emailed me asking if he needs a vocal boot and why my vocals sound so clean, it's because of my chain. So you can see that I have a couple of good mics. I have the blue baby bottle, but then the killer mic in my studio is the Neumann. Hope you can see. Yeah, this is the Neumann TLM 102. This is my workhorse mic. It does everything: acoustic, guitar, vocals. It's just crazy. Very good sound. Then I have a couple of other just fancy mics. Well, nothing too fancy. Yeah. Now my mics take the sound straight into this preamp here. This preamp looks very ugly, but I can assure you this is one of the best preamps you can get for the money. It's like $700 or something, but it's custom made by someone called Mick, and an engineer called Mick in the UK, and it's the DAV BG1 preamp. You can Google it and read about it. It has a larger than life sound. It's crazy. It really amplifies my signal, and it has a couple of important controls. And from this preamp, I have the two mics going out and coming straight into the centerpiece of my studio, which is the Antelope Orion studio. very expensive interface sound card, but I can assure you the sound from this thing is very professional. For many years I used the guy below, the Motu 828, but then I upgraded to this guy, and my sound has never been the same since then. So now guys, you saw my chain. You can see that if you have that high quality, you have a very high quality microphone, a high quality preamp, and a very high quality audio interface. Definitely your raw vocals are going to sound good. And I'm going to play you an example of a vocal that was recorded raw using this setup without any mixing, without any editing, and then you can hear for yourself how good it sounds already without any mixing. Okay, back to the video. So I'm going to show you A+'s raw vocals.
Yeah. It's cold outside, baby, wait. Let me give you a romantic. Sare wagbao, come closer, make we pursue cold komoto. Me pon you pon me. Switch off the light all night long. Play my song, birthday sex. Da 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 da. Panty panty on the wall. Who's the sexiest of them all? Amakao, Jenny, Emma Bong. Oh. Panty panty on the wall. Who's the thickest of them all? Bolu, Sade.
So you notice straight away that the vocals sound really dry, no effects, no auto tune, nothing. Like I turned off everything by just turning off the switch, and then I went for that. I took off the parallel compression, I took off the DSR, everything, right? I took off the delay, reverb, chorus, flanger. Now you hear it's raw, but the raw vocals sound almost mixed. You see, it's not dirty, it's not like, clipping, it's not sounding rough, it's not too high pitched, because of the vocal chain I just showed you, right? So when you have the right preamp, the right processors, your initial vocal take has to be superb, has to be clean. If your initial vocal take is not clean, I assure you, you're already on the way to failure, because there's no amount of mixing that can turn a bad vocal, a shit vocal into, like a super vocal. So your recording take has to be fantastic. Do everything you can, even if you don't have enough money. Try to get a reasonable sound card, reasonable preamp, a good microphone that will give you quality vocals to start with. Okay, so let's move to the second reason why why we don't get professional mixes. And this reason is because we don't even start with good samples and synths at the beginning, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So now this song, I'm just going to take the drums, for instance. I'm just going to solo the drums, and I'm going to turn off all the effects. I'm going to turn off all the effects on the drums. So there's no EQ, there's nothing. Like, it's just going to be the raw drums. Now what you'll notice is that these drums, when they're raw, they already sound professional. Like, I don't know the word to use, but the drums already sound good. Try to get my Afrobeat Domination pack. That's the Afrobeat pack from Allnaijabeats, and you'll get a lot of very good sounds. So I'll just quickly go through a couple of them so you can see. Now, basically, what I want you to notice is that these drums, right out of the box, like my ears are well tuned to a level where I can select the right samples and ignore the ones that are not that good. So, if you can develop that skill, being able to choose the right samples from the beginning, your mixes will sound more professional. So let's go to the to the strings. So some people talk about plugins being better than other plugins. Well, true. Some plugins like Silent, for instance, this one, Silent is super good in terms of having very high quality sound. But again, you can use even the basic hypersonic and Nexus, which may not have like, you know, such a great sound in terms of sound quality. And what I mean is when you master them, they don't sound as good. So listening and choosing the right sounds to start with is also a skill that helps you get a professional mix. If you just pick any weak sound, when you finish mastering, that sound is going to become very weak, very thin, and probably disappear. So this is the sounds. These are the sounds that I used. You see? These are mutes and they sound really good. So string section from Nexus. You can quickly pause the video and just get the preset if that's what you want. This is same here. These are guitars, mute guitars. You can almost feel the difference in the sound in terms of the richness. Then I have expand. I use this guy a lot. This is from Air Expand. Usually you find it in Pro Tools. Really good. And then I merged it with hypersonic brass. Sometimes when when your ear picks it and it's not good enough, you try to double it to get, you know, what you're looking for. So that's it. And then I have an organ here, also from Expand. And I have Massive from Native Instruments. I have this bass. Sort of like an 808. It's a really deep bass. Then I still have the typical hypersonic bass, sub bass, just playing in some parts. Then I have Expand again. Here I'm choosing a djembe. This is just to give some support because when I was mixing, so as a mix engineer, this is what you should always do. This was the initial sound, but then I felt it was too weak, and then I doubled it with this djembe, you know, and then that gave that very rich sound at the beginning. Listen, the main vamp. So it's kind of richer. And then here, of course, I have FPC. I use it sometimes for my rolls. Sometimes I don't for my roll, or, you know, drum rolls. Okay. So in summary, the second reason why your mixes don't sound professional is because you're using shitty samples. Like you just pick any drum sound you have and start making a beat. It doesn't work that way. Make sure you choose the best samples. Same with the synths and the strings and the sounds. Make sure you go with the best sounds, best plugins, best sounds. My goal is to have my raw beat sounding already like a well-mixed song. If you achieve that, then there's very little work to be done in terms of mixing. Okay, guys, so the third reason why your mixes don't sound good, but they don't sound professional, is the way you use your, you know, volume panning and stereo. And I'll explain what I mean. So if you look at my drums, you notice that the way I have panned some of the drums, I've tried to create a feel that is very realistic and that feels the stereo spectrum. So from left to right is completely full. Now I use a principle called Lcr Panning. Some of you have read about it, left, center, right panning. What that means is I do this only for my instrumental tracks. I don't do it for vocals. For vocals, I keep the lead vocals in the middle, and then the backups, I can spread them, you know, 30%, 50%, 70%. But for my instrumentals, as far as I'm concerned, there is nothing like 50% or 70% or 30% panning. It's either you do full panning to the left, to the right, and then to the center. Try this. It's really going to make a difference in your mixes. I'm not kidding. Because it creates a lot of space. And it prevents so much of clogging, especially when you're mastering and then you have all these synths that are like spread from left to right. The synths fill up your speakers, like fill up your space. There's no room in your song. So it's either you keep it in the middle, and if you keep it in the middle, then you have to come right here to the mixer. You see what I've done here? You see these purple knobs. Now this is stereo separation, the default one that comes with FL Studio. So rather than bringing a stereo enhancement plugin, I bring this in. When you're pushing to this direction, you are merging it like to the right. It's just look up here at the meters as I'm pushing this. You see it's merging it. Merging means you're making it more mono. Now for sounds, especially drums, you have no reason to make your drums separated like stereo. So if you look at all my drums, none of them is pushed to the other direction, which is to separate them and sort of widen them. You don't widen drums, and not all drums, but for most drums, you try to, keep the drums in the middle. I do this especially when I notice that a drum sample has a stereo feel, like it's sounding spread out. So I try to, merge it and bring it in and make it more focused, and then I can pan it without issues. But of course, for strings, you can always open up like this particular string. I don't know if I can get this section. Okay. So for this string, excuse me, instead of merging it, I actually separated it more because I wanted it to be more spread. But in doing that, I also ensure that all other strings, you can see almost all of them are merged so that they become more mono. Pay attention to this. It's very important. It makes a difference. It creates a lot of space in your mix. When you look at each sample, you look at where they should be. If you listen to these drums, so for these two bongos, I've panned them to the extreme left and right. I've panned this conga to the extreme left. I've panned this click to the extreme right. Kept the kick in the middle. The rings are both in the middle because they are kind of playing the role of snares. So you can listen and see that it's well balanced across the spectrum. So this really helps to give that really full in-your-face feel with your drums. One other thing to bear in mind for drums, let me just quickly show you because it might help you. I do it for almost all my drums. If you're in FL Studio, try to use this out button to just push it out. So that what it does is that it chops any extra sound at the end of the sample and makes the sample very short and neat. Then I also come here, activate the envelope. I put the attack at the shortest, and then I also cut down on the release so that when you hit it, it doesn't go boom or count. It goes count, doom. So when you do that for your drums, what you find is that it really helps to, keep it clean. And I mean, not for all drum samples, but for those drum samples that you feel are going out of control, So what it does is that it ensures that there is no extra resonance, like nothing is doing bang, boom, boom. When all those things, those resonances come together, then it becomes noise. The beat doesn't sound clean and punchy. So what makes it punchy is being able to set the attack and release functions of the samples, but also ensure that you're cleaning up any extra thing at the end. Now for strings, it's very similar, right? You merge some of them, you open up the ones you want to open, and then you also do the Lcr panning for them. The strings are well separated. Each one is in its own space, but that's not only because of the panning and the stereo separation. It's also because of some EQ, but I'll get to that shortly. But just bear in mind that you follow the same principle. Strings are even more dicey because strings usually they put in a lot of reverb, delay, especially Nexus. Nexus has all these unnecessary reverb, delay things. So always make sure you're turning down the mix of both your reverb and your delay. You see, I turn down the mix. Sometimes I just turn them off completely. You do that, for your samples. Make sure all your string samples are well defined. You know what they are. You know where you want to place them in the stereo space, and then you place them. If you do this for all your instruments, I assure you that your mixes will start to sound professional. Okay, so the next reason why our mixes don't sound professional is the use of Equalizer. And I always tell people that if you master two things, you become a good sound engineer. One is the use of EQ, the other is the use of a compressor. So I'll show you the way I have EQ'd this song. So basically, I'll look at the drums and show you what I've done. You can see that I use the default channel EQ in FL Studio for this instrument. I took out the lows because, of course, you want to do a lot of high passing, like allow only the high frequencies pass, take out the lows for most of your sounds apart from the kick and the bass. But sometimes you also need to be specific because there are certain sounds, like the deep conga that I have in this song. This deep conga, I didn't cut any lows because it's deep. I want it to be deep, you see, so I just cut, you see, just a little bit of lows. Okay. Now for your drums, so the aim of EQing your drums is not to put an equalizer on every single sample. That's unnecessary. You put an EQ where there's something specific to be done. For instance, the bongos, you can see that I've cut down the lows, I've dropped the highs a bit because I don't want my bongo fighting with my rims and other high instruments. So I made it a bit dull. You know, basically still did the same thing here. If you look at my rim, I opened it up a bit in the highs, you know, because I just wanted a bit of shimmer. But then again, I turned down the lows at about 90 hertz. If you look at for my crash, I didn't do anything because it was fine. For my snare, I didn't do anything because it was fine. If you look at my kick, what I've done is that I have identified the right frequency, which is 78 hertz. I usually do that by going to key, choosing the key of the song, and then choosing the right frequency. I bet a lot of you didn't know that. So yeah, so when I get that, then I just adjust from here so the frequency doesn't change. So I just cut down a bit of the extreme subs from the kick because there's a bass, right? And you want the bass to play the sub. So I cut that out, boost this, cut down the highs a bit, and then I wanted the beta of the kick to sort of come out a bit, so I boosted around 2.9K. So that's for drums. For my strings, mostly it's about cutting the lows, you can see, cutting the lows and then boosting. So when I boost any particular frequency on a string, I make sure there's no other instrument in the whole song that is boosted at that frequency. And that's how you can use EQ to, you know, to get stereo separation. And when I'm doing this, normally I switch my monitoring monitor. I have a monitor controller, the SPL control, which I change to mono when I do this so that I'm not fooled by the panning. So you make sure every other sound, like this is 4.6K, you won't find any other sound in this song that has been boosted at 4.6K. This is 3.9K. This is boosted at 800 hertz. This is, you know, so basically this is boosted at 400 hertz. This is boosted at 2.2K. So you look for the sweet spot, the sweet frequency that really brings out the timbre of that sound, and then you boost that frequency just a little bit, you know, using your ears to gauge, and then turning down the lows as I have done here. What I also did with all the strings was to send them to a chorus flanger. That's for another day, but we're just talking about EQ. For EQing vocals, this is what I did. I cut down. Remember, when you're cutting the lows on vocals, try not to cut to, you know, with a very sharp cue. Make sure it's smooth so that it doesn't, you know, sort of sound to, you know, you don't have resonances. And then I dipped a bit of 300 to 400 hertz, just taking out that muffled sound, that muddy sound in the vocal. And then I boosted at 12K because, as you know, 12K is sort of where the crystal, I call it the crystal of the sound comes out. So this is what I did this is how I EQ'd my vocals. Sometimes I use 2 EQs, sometimes I use 3 EQs, sometimes I use only 1. It just depends on what I'm going for. For this radio voice, there's a radio voice somewhere at the end of the song.
If you will romantic, come closer, make we pursue cold komodo. Me pon you, you pon me. Switch off the light all night long. Play my song.
So for this, I added an extra EQ, the Fab filter. basically I just replaced the EQ that was there before, and then I tweaked it to get that sound, that telephone sound. So that's it for EQ for now. And then the last thing that makes your sound not to be professional, that's the last thing for this video, the fifth thing actually, is the wrong use of reverb and delay. And I'm not going to go into, I probably will do a video sometime in the future going into the details of how to use reverb and delay. But what I want to explain to you is that it's not about the plugin. I keep hearing people saying, oh, this plugin sounds better, this is better. Though people are producing very professional mixes with the default reverb you find in Cubase, in Logic Pro, and in other software. And it's same for FL Studio. So what I've done for reverb is set up a reverb channel, you know, a send channel for my reverb. Normally when you set up a send, remember to turn down the dry completely if it's a send channel. So what I've done with this reverb is to, so I'm just going to solo that vocal so you can hear. So what I've done with the reverb is to start with an EQ where I've turned down the lows, turned down the highs, and just sort of turned down some of the harsh frequencies in the reverb. And then I now, you know, I put it before the reverb because I want the sound, the vocal that's being sent to the reverb to be affected before it even hits the reverb. Now when it hits the reverb, I've adjusted the high cut somewhere around 10K, the low cut somewhere around 1K, you know, which is quite narrow actually, you know, but that's what sounds good for me, so I use it that way. And then I worked on the size, increased the size a bit. I went full diffusion. I increased the damping, you know, just enough to, you know, get that feel of not too much of bouncing of reflections of the wall. And then I also ensured that the decay time was in tune with the tempo of the song. So with that, this is what you get. I'll turn off the delay so you hear only the reverb.
Give you a command tweet, Sarewagba, come closer, make we pursue cold komodo.
What you notice is that the reverb is really clean. Now, one of the definitions of an amateur mix is you hear a lot of reverb, and the reverb is very dirty, like it's muddy, like it's just like a soup of reverb. So always ensure that your reverbs are clean. Now, no matter how much reverb I put on this voice, it's still gonna sound good. Like, just listen, let me increase.
Give you a command tweet, Sarewagba, come closer, make we pursue cold komodo. Me pon you, you pon.
So it's not gonna sound dirty.
Give you a command tweet, Sarewagba, come closer, make we pursue cold komodo. Me pon you pon me, switch off the light.
For delay, I'm also using the default reverb, and I'm doing this deliberately so that you know that it's not some fancy delay plugins or reverb plugins. I have lots of them: FabFilter, Time Layers, you know, Eventide, Ultra Reverb, you know, all the waves, reverbs, and delays and everything. But sometimes the default ones just do the job. So for this, I've set the time to a quarter note delay. I'll turn off the reverb so you hear only the delay. Quarter note, I panned it a bit, I turned down the feedback, and then I turned down the dry completely.
Give you a command tweet, Sarewagba, come closer, make we pursue cold.
So normally why I pan it is so it's not, the reflection is not clashing with the lead vocal. So it's always good to pan it a bit. Sometimes, and now I'm even doing ping pong. So ping pong means it's bouncing from left to right. You might not really hear it, but let me exaggerate it a bit, exaggerate the panning and the amount of delay so that you can hear that ping pong effect.
Give you a command tweet, Sarewagba, come closer, make we push.
So that's basically what the ping pong does. And I use ping pong because it's cleaner, it's fancy, it goes from ear to ear, you know. So that's it for reverb and delay. If you know how to use your reverb and delay very well, I can assure you that your mixes will sound professional. Sometimes people layer two delays on each other. I mean, I do that sometimes. I don't know if I did it on this song. Okay, I didn't do it on this song, but yeah. So people sometimes just use two delays. People sometimes use 2-3 reverbs. Like, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that you should have a very good mix, and the vocal or whatever you're adding reverb to should sound really good. I added a bit of reverb to the drums as well, and I do that to most of my sounds because I want the all the sounds in the song to be in the same space, and that really helps to give you that coherent and professional feel. So that's what I do. So that's the how to make your song more professional, part 1. See you in part 2.